about Los Angeles.
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a wonderful Thursday, May 11th. LA Galaxy get a 3-1 victory over the Baby Sounders. It's like the full-time Sounders, but it wasn't really the full-time Sounders. We're going to talk about Seattle and that win and what that does for the Galaxy as they get ready to face off in a Cali-Clasico coming up on Sunday on Mother's Day, and why San Jose is in such a good form as we head along. There's some other little news tidbits and bites that we're going to cover as we get there, but this time for real, I'm not joking. Actually, you know, he was going to be on the show, and then at the last second, he couldn't be on the show. So I know you guys didn't want another solo show, so Eric is absolutely not here this one time. Oh, wait, it's Eric
Surprise!
the Portuguese Hammer. Oh, surprise, everybody. Yeah, there you go.
He is risen. He's alive. He's here. I made it. Just barely clinging on to life here. What a week. What a week.
You had you were like, hey, I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go. This is going to be good. We're going to be fine. I'm sick. Yeah, I have the flu. Yeah, it's pretty bad right now. I'm gonna do it, no problem. And then my favorite text message, I'm out. That was it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there was no. Yeah, it was last Thursday that I actually went into urgent care to get the diagnosis, and I was like, okay, I'm not feeling great. Got the chills, all the bad news. You wanted to, go get the tests and make sure it's nothing too serious. Came back, had the flu, but I said, what, it's podcasting. I could tough it through.
Right.
And then as it got close to showtime, I was like, no, I cannot tough it through. I am not the bigger person. This is not the Michael Jordan game. I'm not going to power through. I'm going to enjoy my rest and my liquids and get through this thing. That way I can give you a good performance this week.
Okay, good. I was going to say there's something known as like show business health, right? Where even if you're sick, you go on stage and you're able to sort of power through it. I've gotten through many podcasts that way, but whenever you're at your stage, I think you were rightfully correct to
I'm not winning a podcast Emmy here. Yeah.
We haven't been nominated. I don't.
Yeah, especially with how the Galaxy have been playing. Come on, I shaved my back for this. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I do have to warn everybody. I'm single parenting it tonight, and so my kiddo is currently in the next room attempting to fall asleep.
Anything could happen. What?
75% chance he walks in here in the next 10 to 15 minutes, or I have to go over there, basically I'm going to hand the show off to you, just let you take it.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah, it's not like I'm having trouble speaking or holding my breath. Yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It'll be great. So anyway, that's what it's an interesting time in Galaxy Land. Maybe a little reprieve. Not really. I know people are sort of saying, did Vanney save his job by winning the game in the Open Cup? I mean, I don't think so. I don't. One is, if it's a reprieve, if everything was based on the Open Cup, then wow, there's so many bigger problems than everything else that's going on.
That's not a good thing.
But the other thing is that there's no reprieve for anybody in this. Not the way the Galaxy have started, not the way they're going. I mean, quite honestly, the Galaxy could run rampant through the U.S. Open Cup and win it. It might be their best chance at doing something this year. Although I think the playoffs are still very much in reach. I know it feels like it's a long way away, but if the Galaxy could actually win games, they could climb back into this. It's just that whole thing. Can they win games? And at least, and we'll talk about it, at least against the Baby Sounders, right? A heavily rotated Sounders team. I think they did what they were supposed to do, because there's a lot of pressure there for an A-team lineup to come out and try to beat a team that is looking to make their mark. And we've seen it with, Sacramento Republic or Orange County, whenever that, they played all these lower division teams. And really that's what Seattle was basically a lower division team. There's a lot of pressure in that, and there's a lot of ways that can go wrong. And the Sounders, little tip of the cap, they hung in there for a nice, good long time. So
yeah, they put up a good fight, and you've kind of mentioned it. You've covered it as that this was essentially the Galaxy A team. Maybe an A- if you count Gino Vivi, but if you think about the lack of wingers on this team, the rotating squad, this is really maybe one of the best lineups that we could put up there. And it was against a Seattle, I called it Freddie Montero and the sack lunch bunch. It was just a bunch of, kids, who just brought their sack lunches with them. And they put up a good fight. It was nice to see Ade get a banger. That kind of falls in line with, what we've been saying about the poor shot selection or poor shot availability, that he had to score one from distance. And then Memo Rodriguez showing signs of life. I thought that was nice for him to get a couple goals. So maybe, Memo Rodriguez isn't a winger, but, he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express or he plays one on TV. So maybe that's something that you get him going. If they're not going to have Douglas Costa, maybe they can go back to how they started the season with maybe Rodriguez feeling a little bit of confidence. Then you have Boyd on the other side, and maybe Vanney can reset and kind of maybe this is something that can get them back on track. You don't want to applaud them too much because you consider the competition, but they did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. Got a little maybe closer than it needed to be at the end, but again, job done, job complete.
Yeah, and fairly, I think the Galaxy had to expend effort. I'm not going to say they didn't, but it wasn't like they had to scramble in order to win that game. I felt many times they were very much in control of the game, and they had some things. Now, want to look on the negative side of it as well. I thought Seattle had a lot of really good chances to sort of score and didn't put those up. When you look at shots and everything's pretty even, actually, overall, whenever you're looking at shots and shots on goal and all that fun stuff. Real quick, super chat, $2 super chat from Rico's Pizza. Is that I was going to
say, is this a sponsor? Is that a person? Is that a business?
I want to know if it's a real pizza place. If it's a real pizza place, give us your address or whatever if you want, and we'll plug it on the show, because not for $2 super chat, I basically will do anything. But, Rico's Pizza, you want to see pictures of my feet? Rico's Pizza, $2 super chat. Hey, Josh, any update on the Ricky jacket? Hysterically, or at least I think it's funny, when I was at the stadium last night, one of the Galaxy people came up to me and was like, hey, I know people have been asking about that jacket. Tell them soon if they ask. It's soon. Soon. I am passing on what I know, and the answer to that is soon. Soon for the Ricky jacket. If you are indeed looking for the Ricky jacket, then the Ricky jacket shall be soon. How soon? I don't know. They didn't tell me, but soon.
And for those who may be late to the party, earlier, I think it was either before the season opener or somewhere around, Ricky was at the sideline of a Lakers game wearing a 96 style jersey, but it was a jacket, and so that's what we're talking about. So it's not a Ricky jacket like Ricky themed, Ricky Bobby doesn't have Ricky's face on it. It's a 96 jersey style jacket.
Yeah, it's pretty sharp. So if you're looking for, again, soon, that's what I've been told. So, that's where we sit on that. I will say, everybody I think was trying to harp on the crowd last night. The crowd was as to be expected for a U.S. Open Cup game on a Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Oh yeah, today's Thursday.
Sure.
Wednesday. It's as to be expected. A U.S. Open crowd Wednesday. They said 8,000. There were between 5 and 6 there. Probably they're spread out all over the place and everything else, and that was fine. Weather was nice. I thought the game was entertaining. I thought it was good. It's always nice whenever if you're the Galaxy, you can get on the board early, right? So you talked about Ade getting in there. Let's shoot up and take a look real quick on the scores and on the lineups just to get everybody here. Congratulations, MLS. You had a chance to finally put the right formation because it's so obvious, and you screwed it up. So whoever put the formation into that, how dare you do this to Chicharito? No, Ricky Puig was not playing as a second forward. The Galaxy very, very much, and in the vein that Greg Vanney said was going to happen, they very much went with a single forward up top, and that was Chicharito. I thought there was a lot of disconnect between Chicharito and the midfield in the first half. We can talk about that here in a little bit. It was Ricky Puig back in the midfield with Gaston Brugman, with Mark Delgado sort of in that center. So if you're thinking either 4-5-1 or 4-3-3, that's more how this went. Gino Vivi was the surprise sort of starter, but Greg Vanney said, hey, we went with something a little different. He is a winger, and that's what we're looking for, is trying to get a wing and trying to get width. Tyler Boyd was on the right-hand side, so again, another true winger, so actually playing with wingers. What do you know? Things actually had width, and if you even go to the average positions, it shows the width in the average positions as well. So I thought the Galaxy, I kind of like the lineup. Vivi has Gino has a lot of ways to go, right? And certainly, I think
this is the spot where you put him in.
Yeah, but of course it's the spot you put him in, and you let him go out there and you try it. I really liked his ability to get width, and I think the Seattle gave him a lot of space in order to sort of attack that, and that's the part of it. If you want to talk about positives, I liked him starting wide. I liked him staying wide. I liked him working back on defense. He did that a bunch of times. So in terms of Greg Vanney and what Greg Vanney likes to see, that's something to sort of look at. So I thought Vivi played wide, stayed wide, and was able to get back on defense. Greg talked about him being a little narrow a couple times on defensive side and allowing guys to get around him and outside of him, stuff that he can work on. My big knock for Vivi is take people on when you have that space on that left-hand side. Take your 1v1 and the guy's backpedaling in the box. Take him on, find something to happen. And he finally did right at the end of the first half. And he got a ball and a cross into that near post. And it was like, yes, that. And then in the second half, I think he even came in. He cut inside and had a shot and did some things. And so I think he finally sort of came alive once he was able to do it. He's youngish in terms of, MLS, knowledge. So give him some time to sort of do some stuff there. There's people who just want to crap on people all the time. And it's like, This is not the guy you need to be blaming for the LA Galaxy's results as of late. VV went out there. He put in the shift. Was it perfect? No. Was there lots of room to grow? No, absolutely. Greg Vanney was complimentary of things. And he said that he would work on them with things. But for a team that is lacking wingers, Gino Vivi may be your answer in the next few weeks, right? He's not the guy you want, but he's the guy you're going to get stuck with, right? It's one of those.
That's the funny thing, because I can imagine the chat's probably going to explode, and the listeners are probably going to say, Gino Vivi, he's the answer, he's what's going to fix everything, and that's probably not the case. But when you look around the league, you have a lot of these, serviceable, journeymen, picked up in the draft style players that you just need to fill the role, and I think when you look at this Galaxy roster with winger being a position of need, you need someone who you're going to be able to mold and, coach easily, and who's not going to go rogue and is going to follow the instructions of what the manager says. And I think that's what you're going to get with Vivi. He's going to fill in that role. He's going to listen to what coach is, maybe even be overly cautious and not try to do too much, which is kind of what you're describing. It wasn't until later in the half and later in the game that he started maybe trying to open up. And that's not a bad thing necessarily either. So it's not the second coming. It's not a number one draft pick. He's not going to save the team. But is he going to be a piece that the Galaxy need? We don't have anyone on the wing right now. So we'll take anybody who can be being serviceable at this point is a positive for the Galaxy.
Yeah, I thought he held his position okay. And again, I mean, if you're asking for a grade, he got a C+. I'm not saying that he's anything magical, but he didn't hurt himself in that game.
Yeah. And he didn't hurt the team.
Absolutely. And and again, I really like some of his track backs and getting back on defense. And if you're going to play for Greg Vanney, then that part is going to be recognized. I want everybody to realize that. Greg Vanney very much is sort of a defense first, which is why I think he's frustrated by going into the two forward sets and it not working and the guys not being defensively smart and a whole bunch of other things. So certainly it's that. Let's get to Aaron's $5 super chat so he can put another earwig in my ear and I'll have to think about this for the rest of the time. Does Josh have family from the South? No. My son said Southerners use whenever instead of when, and I've noticed Josh does that. God only knows, Aaron. Never thought about it. Will never think about it outside of this, but I will spend your money, so thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Whenever, wherever.
Whenever, whenever. Yeah. Shakira.
Yeah.
Copyright violation. So anyways,
it's a banger.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Another thing that was interesting, Scott French pointed this out more than anything, but Neil and Costa are switching sides. Left versus right versus left. Neil usually on the right, Costa usually on the left. They switched them up. We asked Greg Vanney, and he said, just trying to get everybody looks everywhere. And, that's it. And a lot of times you're like, oh, tell me what's going on, the whole deal.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean, the whole deal? Yeah. Jonathan Bond was the other big story coming back in this game.
That, to me, is the biggest surprise, yeah.
Perfectly fine through the entire game. he didn't make a lot of. He did get bumped into early in the game, and everybody's like holding their breath, like, which one is? He clarified it's an AC sprain, which was what he had, and he said it sounded really bad. He goes, but actually, like for the ligaments actually in the shoulder got stretched a little bit and all that stuff. So he goes, it sounded really bad, but the recovery time actually wasn't too bad. He was actually, I think, back a little bit ahead of schedule. Because they were like 4 weeks and then plus training, and it ended up being probably like 5 weeks total whenever you look at it. So
if you look at like a separated shoulder or dislocated shoulder, which is kind of worst case scenario, that's a much longer recovery time. So the fact that he's back, that to me is a good sign. It seems like he's ahead of schedule, and he didn't look injured or like he was behaving gingerly or anything like that. And not to beat him in while he's down, but you guys kind of mentioned it on Monday as well. Klinsmann didn't exactly drape himself in glory in his last performance, so I think the Galaxy were very happy to have Jonathan Bond back in between the sticks. I don't think we have a controversy for right now.
No, I don't think there's a controversy, and I also don't think that Jonathan Bond is going to do anything crazy like that's going to be like, oh my God, look how good he is, but he's also not going to be how bad he is. He's very much just sort of a middle of the road guy. I think Jonathan Klinsmann is fairly the same. Well, they're very similar guys.
Well, it's funny. A couple weeks ago, you would have told me that after those opening starts, not that too big of a difference. But then you saw, a few more of the warts on Jonathan Klinsmann as he played more games. And so I think Bond is a little bit more steady in that regard. You might get higher highs from Klinsmann, but you're also going to get the lower lows.
It feels that way a little bit. I was talking about Chicharito and how I thought he struggled in this game. In the first half, I certainly think Ricky Puig was trying to score 7 million goals and do everything himself. Now, I also think that without Puig, the LA Galaxy really don't create a whole bunch. But I do think that actually getting some active wingers on the outside and somebody like Tyler Boyd, Memo Rodriguez, whenever he comes into the second half, and he really did a lot in that second half to sort of, really boost the LA Galaxy. He came on fire. Raheem Edwards came in the second half and really created. That's the position that we've been wanting to see Raheem Edwards in, and he didn't dress for the previous game, and we heard that maybe there was a little bit of an injury or something. He comes on in this game in the second half, and he's the reason that third goal gets scored, right? And that was the good goal. That was the prettiest goal the Galaxy has scored all year.
That was
right?
a great build-up.
Yeah. And so good build-up. Edwards taking space, but there's something to be learned in that as well, and I think Tyler Boyd was guilty of this. I think Vivi was guilty of this, is not taking space when they allow it. Now, Raheem Edwards is sort of the guy who puts his head down and starts running even if there's not space sometimes.
And he did it in this game also. Yeah, you saw that also.
Right. So you get that from him. By the way, when he's doing it as a winger, it's not as bad as whenever he's doing it as a defender, right? And so we're sort of like, okay. I saw that. I want guys to take up space. I think Puig does a good job of that. One, he creates the space and then he exploits that space, and that's great. But there's this gap between Chicharito and the midfield that isn't closed because people aren't attacking space. Joe Tutino, if you were at the game, you were able to come down, and if you went to come talk to me, Joe Tutino came down and talked with everybody while we were there. So he was in the circle, talking to everybody. And we had
that's a big get for the halftime circle. That's impressive.
He was walking down. He wanted to talk to fans. Where are my people? Right there at the bottom of the steps. So we ran into him, and he knows a lot of them as well because he's been around for a while. By the way, Joe was shaming me hilariously and perfectly accurately. I was telling the press box I wouldn't be there on Sunday because it's Mother's Day, and I go, you all think like you're all crazy if you think I'm going to be able to go to the game and the whole deal. And Joe Tutino goes, oh, I've missed 2 games. And I'm like, oh, this year? And he's like, no, my entire career. And I'm like, thanks,
Never
Joe.
mind.
Thanks, Joe. Yep. That's
he wouldn't have missed the show for a flu. That's for sure.
No. He would have been locked and loaded in there. If you ever get a chance to talk to Joe Tutino, talk to him. One of the most interesting people you'll ever talk to. It's like talking to a living legend. There's royalty in the air whenever Joe comes down. And graces us mere peasants, which he never treats you like. He always treats you like you're the most important person whenever he talks to you. I appreciate my friendship with Joe and over the years being able to do it. But he was down there talking, and he was saying, he goes, there's too much space and it's not being closed into. So whenever Chicharito goes to get the ball's not in the right spot because really you need to take that space up, let the defenders have to step forward, and then that creates the space for these things, and those things aren't happening.
It's when we've been saying the same thing, and it's kind of interesting that you mentioned Puig and Chicharito, because I think they both kind of suffer from that same issue, is trying to do too much and kind of putting too much on their shoulders. One, it's part of their nature because they're leaders and they want to get things done and they want to put the game on their shoulders. But sometimes the game, you hear this adage all the time. It's a simple game. You don't need to overcomplicate things. And I think sometimes Chicharito and Puig overcomplicate things. Puig has the ball control and the skill to get himself out of those situations and then make things happen. Chicharito, not so much. So when he has to drop back because that space isn't being taken advantage of, then, you have Chicharito. You basically lose a forward because you have Chicharito hang back. This is nothing new. This is an issue that the Galaxy have been struggling with, for 2 or 3 seasons, is Chicharito, having to come back and do too much work.
Right.
And it's actually interesting. That was the issue with Dejan, and why there were some struggles is because he was not coming back and doing that work. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because Dejan was, trying to play the game smart. Why do I need to come back? If everyone does their job, I should be able to just get the ball and finish it. And so it's that double-edged sword. The game should be simple.
Right.
They shouldn't have to come back and do that. But if they don't, then the Galaxy are in a bad situation as well. So it's this double-edged sword where they're overworking, trying too hard. But if they don't do it, the other players aren't stepping up into that space and taking advantage of the situation. That way they can let, Puig and Chicharito have that success.
Yeah, and I will say this. I didn't think that there was a lot of success for Chicharito in this game. That should be a worrying sign still, that they're not connecting even against Baby Sounders and everything else that are going on there. That being said, Joveljic came in and I thought he was immediately dangerous. And what have we missed from him for most of this year when he's been a starter is being dangerous. He was dangerous. He combined the give and go with Edwards over to Memo for the third is such a nice one. And the Galaxy, by the way, I would like to point this out. This is a shocking stat. Shocking. The Galaxy scored off 2 corner kicks in this game. When was the last time they scored off corner kicks? Nowadays is a rebound off a corner, right? And it wasn't a direct corner.
And it wasn't a short corner either.
Although we were talking at halftime about the Galaxy's sort of like this floating ball mentality that they take on corner kicks. So it's just like, oh, we'll just float it in there, that type of thing.
It goes too far. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? And I'm like, and I was saying,
near post
I like
strike.
Just somebody go to the near post. Anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody. But then if you're going to go to the near post, it's not a floated ball to the near post. You drive the ball. Yeah. And I like drived crosses. I think those are the most dangerous. The offensive player does not have to create the momentum for the ball. It just
creates chaos.
That's it.
It takes a bounce. It gets, go off a defender, get a deflection. Yeah, the driven ball is the name of the game.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
It is absolutely that. So, I mean, those are the types of things that I think you want to see a little bit better. I thought Memo, obviously with the brace, is really nice. Gets the one off the corner kick. That was a glancing header by Jalen Neal off the corner kick, and it was from Boyd. So Boyd to Neal to Memo. He puts that one in. That makes it 2-0. All right, game over. Oh, wait, 30 seconds later, 2-1 for Seattle. And just, again, just bad play, bad defending, lackadaisical, all sorts of little things that you don't want to see in this game that you end up seeing in this game. And so that was sort of one of those, but it is nice to see Memo Rodriguez score the second goal and sort of put that away. And not only that, but it was such a nice second goal with Raheem Edwards breaking in, taking space into Joveljic. Joveljic back to Edwards, but Memo even said to us afterwards, he goes, I told Raw to let it go, because the ball was coming to both of them, and he's like, Raw, let it go, and Raw just ran right over top of it, and then Memo was able to hit a curling right-footed shot.
Yeah, the stuff dreams are made of. That's the type of goal that you look forward to finishing.
Greg said that Memo hits one of the hardest or one of the heaviest balls on the team. So he's like, I'm sure he's glad to be on the score sheet. Memo told us that it was like scoring. He goes, it's been so long since I've really scored a goal in a game that it felt like the first time I ever scored. Like I was that excited about it and the whole deal. So now,
fun fact: Memo Rodriguez is our only multi-goal scorer across all competitions.
Because everybody else has one.
Everyone else has one, yeah.
And that's really interesting. Let's get to some super chats, and then I want to talk about the overall reaching idea of starting an A team in this game and why and that whole fun stuff. So Patrick, $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Patrick. Good to see Hammer in the co-pilot chair. COG solid, serious, and rational as usual. Our owner should emulate you guys. I mean, if Uncle Phil wants to come on the podcast, we would, I'll even church this place up. You want me to play some organ music or some stuff in order to get him in here?
Appreciate you, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it. And then, as always, I'd like to first wish a very happy birthday to executive producer Herb, Sugar Daddy Herb. It was his birthday not too long ago, I think over the weekend. And so COG did send him a little gift, courtesy of our friends over at Soccer Warehouse. who are over at the Garden Walk in Anaheim. So if you know, right down the street from Disney, I don't know if that's where the House of Blues Anaheim is, and
the new House of Blues.
Yeah, the new House of Blues, because the other one was in downtown Disney. So this one actually a little bit better location in terms of parking and getting there and that type of stuff. So so that type of thing. The Soccer Warehouse is there. So they got him a little COG kit. And Herb, as I said, we will get that personalized for you. We can do that. We also possibly, and I don't want anybody to hold their breaths yet, but if you have anything to do on June 3rd, perhaps put a little pin in it for a little bit in the evening.
Hold their what? What did you say?
I don't know. What did I say?
Okay. Yeah. Well, you said, it's supposed to be breath, but I don't know. I thought I heard a plural word in there.
Breasts? Did I say breasts? Like chicken breasts? That's what I was saying. I am hungry, so that wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, but you can go. Perhaps June 3rd, maybe. We're still. I'm iffy on it. I have a very busy day that day. I'm trying to see if it all works out. So we're gonna possibly do something. There's no Galaxy game that weekend.
Yeah, it's an international break. Maybe there's a guy who's flying in to town around that time.
Maybe
June 3rd.
Maybe. Yeah. So anyway, so keep that in the back of your head, and we'll let you know here relatively soon. But anyway. That was the whole thing. Down there, Soccer Warehouse, they sent him over a Corner of the Galaxy kit, like the long sleeve one that I have, except a short sleeve on that. And so maybe we're working some stuff out, and maybe that's where you're going to want to be on June 3rd. We'll see. But
shout out to you, Herb. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
And shout out to Soccer Warehouse. Shout out to everybody. Appreciate it. And Patrick, and we're going to give Patrick a second shout out here, even though Herb is the big baller. Carter, because Patrick is always in the chat.
He is.
Always making things happen, being active. So I appreciate that. In addition to executive producer Herb, who's reminding people to, hit the like button on the way out.
Right.
So, we've got the best listeners.
Yep, absolutely. $41 super chat from Sugar Daddy Herb, executive producer Herb. By the way, I wanted to say that Alex had something here, and he says you can tell Hammer is a full Texan now with one of those Cosmos relatives' heads behind him on the wall. Texans always have their hunting trophies on the wall. So did you kill that yourself, or
I was going to say that's from if we're just the Galaxy creators, all the people. Beanies by Bay. If you don't follow them on Instagram, they made those for us. So yeah, big shout out. So again, it's a beanie. It's not. I'm not collecting scalps of Cosmo. I would never. Although I did place the Cosmo jersey there, so it might look that way. But I have the Texas Roadhouse feel with Cosmo there.
That's very good. Always nice. Apparently I did say what you thought I said. Good.
I thought I heard it.
Okay, well that's good. We're PG-13 here. You can see a little of that in PG-13, right? Didn't that used to be the rule back in the day?
It used to be. I
see a little bit.
Sworn I saw. Yeah, you were good for like a
sneak peek. Yeah, it was
sneak peek.
It was across the camera, kind of blurry, but you were like, I'm pretty sure I saw. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was what it is. So anyway, that's sort of where we're sitting right now. So let's talk about this, though. Vanney does run out the first team, right? This is an A team. Now, we can talk about VV, but honestly, there's nobody else, so you might as well call it the A team and, that whole thing. I don't want to discount that kid too much. So A team. I asked Greg Vanney why afterwards, actually. I know lots of people are like, well, they have to because they're trying to save the season, the whole deal. Yeah, I certainly think some of that is that. That they have the opportunity, and we talked about it on Monday night. We said you have the opportunity. You're 0-0 in the Open Cup, and if you win, you get to advance, and that's a positive. And if you keep advancing, you eventually lift and win a trophy. And as it looks right now, perhaps you aren't competing for a trophy this year. Whenever it comes to Major League Soccer, right, in that season, or you also have the tournament that's going to be Leagues Cup, and I imagine the Galaxy are going to take that very seriously.
There's a lot of different pathways. Yeah.
There's a lot of different pathways, a lot of things, and I think Jonathan Bond. It was either Jonathan Bond or Memo Rodriguez was sort of saying, of course we're going to take it seriously because we can end up lifting a trophy in this, and we all know that. And this is a way to sort of get us jump started. But Greg, I asked him for it, and I said, why the A team, and what does that say about how serious you want to take this competition, or how badly you sort of need the win? Vanney said, listen, if we had to play on Saturday, I would have rotated this club. And he said it all has to come down to the number of days. And he goes, because we had the extra day and we play on Sunday, he goes, and he said this before, Vanney thinks that if you get 3 days, that's kind of normal. That's okay. 3 days is full recovery and you can go back and you play a game. And he goes, players would love it if they played every 3 days. Basically a game, 3 days off, and a game, 3 days off, and a game. He goes, because then they never have to train, right? And he goes, and they don't want to train, right?
And they'd love that, yeah.
Right? All they don't want to do is play games, right? And so he goes, so as far as he was concerned, he said that he thought the rest was more than enough and that he would play a full team lineup whenever he could in terms of the rest days and all the other things that are coming through it. So now he didn't come out and say, hey, hey, my job's on the line, so I better get like wins and stuff like that. I think that's implied from everybody. His job, Chris Klein's job, everybody's job is sort of hinging on the success that sort of comes. Now, another big game coming up on Sunday that very well, if you're embarrassed, if ramifications, it's a rivalry, it's all sorts of sort of things, that if it goes badly, again, we'll be asking all the same questions again. You have to win like 5 or 6 games in a row in order to sort of start be like, oh, okay, you're okay now.
Well, and I think Greg Vanney is very famous for understanding the context of things and really hammering home that concept. One win in an Open Cup game against, a lot of youths, if you're
Utes.
going from either my cousin Vinny or New Girl here.
Right.
But that doesn't get you a pass. So I go back to what I was saying at the beginning of the season. Do we throw it all away for 2024, or do we put all our energy in the U.S. Open Cup basket? And it's like, we're 0-0. Maybe this is where you start your A lineup. It's not going well, during league play, but maybe if we rotate our squad where the A team plays the U.S. Open Cup games, and maybe you rotate the squad on the other side. I do find it interesting that the magic number of days that he has that formula figured out. So it's kind of cool that he let that be known. We'll see if he's consistent to that, and if that remains the case as they move forward. But as far as playing for your job, I think I don't think he was playing for his job, but I think had they not been on their losing streak, maybe he would have rotated a few more,
right?
Guest stars. But I think because of how bad they've been, and he kind of probably anticipated that Seattle, being the away team, was probably going to have a heavily rotated lineup. That, hey, this is my opportunity. Let's get these guys back on the field. Let's take 3 points, and just to get our head right, just to get in the win column again. So I do believe that had the Galaxy been on a win streak, or had their form been a little bit better, that maybe you don't see an A lineup. So I do think there is some truth to that.
It's one is that you can do anything in this, right? The Galaxy is sort of in the position now where they can sit there and say, we have nothing to lose, so go out there and play like you have nothing to lose, right? Like, everybody's expecting that we're not good. Although, unfortunately for them, they have way too much talent for people to be like, oh, these guys aren't any good. It's now they're like, why are they so bad with how much talent they have, right? And that's a different perspective as far as where I'm at. This isn't 27. That's why I keep going. This isn't 2017 when you were like, who are these guys?
Who are these USL? It's,
right.
Roman Alessandrini, who at that point was unproven, and João Pedro, all these guys. It was the two.
Jermaine Jones comes back.
What a squad! What a squad! But let's go back to that idea of this team is way too talented. Like, you hear that a lot, and I was almost getting a little bit frustrated and kind of sick of it. Like, let's stop saying this team is talented when they're not showing that they're talented on the field.
Right.
But then when you make that comp and you look at the roster from 2017, you look at the roster now, you're right. This when you look at it on paper, this should be a more talented team. But I was getting kind of sick of hearing, hey, as talented as they are, they should be doing better. And part of me thinks this is who they are. They are. What's the adage? You are what your record says you are. So if you're talented, you'd have better results than this. The way you're playing, you're not playing like you're very talented. So I don't know that we could say they're more talented than the results they're getting. They kind of deserve where they're at. But again, here's the hammer talking out of both sides of his mouth. Right. My specialty. I was getting sick of it. But
you're a double-sided hammer. You're a double-sided hammer. Sorry.
When you zoom out and you look at other rosters and you say, this team really should be doing better. I get it.
Yeah, that's sort of, they are who we thought they were. You want to crown them? Crown them. One of my favorites. One of my absolutely favorite. Denny Green.
The classic.
In Cardinals. That was great. I was in Arizona at that time, I think. Yeah. Good times.
That was Matt Leinart.
Yeah. Oh, good times. So anyway, I mean, there was a lot more pressure on this game probably than it seems, and especially even if you have the second team lineup or the third team lineup really from Seattle, and Greg Vanney mentioned that Brian Schmetzer said that if he had an extra day, he would have liked to have played more of his starters. The best thing the Galaxy did was when Nico Lodeiro came on, the Galaxy scored immediately, and that put the game out. Because Schmetzer had played it really smart to sort of be like, hey, Nico, you have 8 minutes to do something and totally cause chaos in here. And
break glass in case of emergency.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, go, it's just 8 minutes. So anybody can play 8 minutes. And you'll be fine for whatever we do this weekend. So you're fine and blah, 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 the whole deal. So go play 8 minutes and try to cause chaos. And then boom, Memo scores. So they got the goals when they needed to get the goals. Aude had a great goal, by the way. It's such a nice strike. And then Memo with the brace. Both goals very nice. The last one, good team goal. Good teamish goal. It's 3 guys who combined for very quick little passes that ended up with the goal. So all in all, they passed the tests that they needed to in that, and if they would have lost to the Baby Sounders, I mean, I probably wouldn't have done a podcast tonight because there would have been too many people who I was afraid of interrupting their mental health breaks they were probably on. So, so all those things sort of combined. ACB in the house again. They were chanting, we want Klein out was certainly one of the chants they hit more than once. They also put up a not a tifo, and this isn't really a card stun either, but it's a banner. It's not just a salary you're playing for the hearts and minds of a generation. So going after the players a little bit, saying, what you're doing is not acceptable and in their eyes, and they need to get better.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that because I don't know if it was directed at players. Because, with the whole Klein out of it all, it feels like, is it directed at Klein that, are you there just to collect a salary? Because we were always told this is not about the players. This is not about, going at players. So the tricky thing right now with the supporter group situation is there's not a lot of voices behind it explaining speaking of context, the how and the why. So that leaves a lot up into interpretation. So when you see that, you say, is that pointed at the players? Do they feel like the players are just there collecting a salary, and if there's no one there to clarify it, that leaves it open. So that's the unfortunate part, is it really leaves it open because the whole point it's not against the players, it's about leadership and ownership and where it's going. So the kind of I don't know if it rubbed me the wrong way, but it made me feel uneasy. Like, I don't know what that's all about.
I mean, that's sort of been the trend over the last couple of weeks is I don't really know what that's all about. Like there was the 138 number that was in the TIFO for the game against Colorado, which was really a call out for the LA Riot Squad in the ACB, sort of part of the evil empire, right? Like that type of thing.
You're pointing your tasers at the wrong enemy here. Yeah.
I'm sure for casuals, they have no idea any of this stuff is going on, right? And so it's
Correct.
very inside baseball for all of this. And so it's the side quests are so distracting to the main quest of stuff that in many ways I think I just drive down the middle of the lane and try not to look at the fire that's burning on both sides of the freeway, right? So those types of things. I know that there's a supporter meeting, right? I think on Zoom coming up on Friday, which is tomorrow. Yeah. And so go to LA Riot Squad or Galaxy Outlaws, any of those, and they'll be able to point you in that direction. And they want fans of the LA Galaxy. They don't just want supporters groups. They want fans in general. And if we're looking at that in terms of the warscape that is the boycott, right? What are they trying to do? Well, we talked about the LA Galaxy going and trying to pick off the largest group that they thought that they could, and they did, and so they got them back in the stadium. So what happens whenever your army suffers some blows? You go out and you try to get more people, right?
Yeah.
This is that. And it's also trying to open up a bigger umbrella and being like, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. Sort of that type of thing. So again, strategies being played out. It's like, chess and checkers always happening. Everything is happening, which again, this is the part I kind of enjoy more, is watching the pieces move across the board.
And I think if we're being real, if we're being honest, and you've kind of been around, I've been on, like you in the stands, not necessarily attached to one group or another, but kind of seeing it, there maybe has always been an underlying tension. And I think that happens whenever you have multiple groups of anything.
Come on down to the train club and watch all the tensions.
I'm sure there are people. There are warring factions at the train club.
Dude, there's going to be war paint out there with different,
So I think it's always there, but when these situations happen, it just kind of shines a light on it, and that's where it starts to really get ugly, and kind of you start to see some colors and some things that you maybe don't want to see. The one move that I do like from the Lars faction and the Outlaws and that group is bringing in the other fans, because one thing, and I'm just going to be blunt and say it and honest, one thing that's always, and I will say has rubbed me the wrong way, is that there's only one way to support. That if you're not jumping up and down for an ID, you're not a real fan. You don't cheer like us, so you don't get the same fan card, the same fan cachet. So I think it is a smart move to say you don't necessarily have to be in a supporter group. If you like this club, you want to be a part of the conversation, let's open our arms, let's get you in the net. And I think that's a smart move, because I think there are a lot more of those people than some groups may not realize. It's like there are a lot of people who care a lot about this club and want to see it pointed in the right direction, but maybe they're not jumping up and down for 90 minutes, and that's okay too. You need that atmosphere, you need that extra piece, but that's not the only way to do things either.
That I agree, and we've talked about that many times. There's more than one way to support things and a whole bunch of things. So I'm encouraged by this, and hopefully we'll hear some outcomes from this meeting that is taking place tomorrow as well. We get to the U.S. Open Cup when we have to talk about it. The draw. It's really hard for me to defend these things as like random. It is. It's almost comical at this point. We all knew
it was going to happen.
I mean, yeah, you did. You all knew that last year the LA Galaxy got the home field advantage for the LAFC U.S. Open Cup game. It was a game they ended up winning. This year, of course, for unbelievable reasons, it goes that LAFC now has the home field advantage. The LA Galaxy will travel there. They went and put stuff out in the round of 16. It's LAFC hosting the LA Galaxy. This game being played on May 23rd, 7:30 p.m. is the kickoff time at BMO Stadium in LA. So that's that game that will be played. Kellen Acosta was asked about it today on LAFC, and he goes, "We drew the Galaxy?" He goes, "Of course we did." He goes, "That's not random." Like, he was just like, this is too obvious. It's too easy. So now the next round for the LA Galaxy. Now I'm going to tell you something. I wanted to look this up because I was looking at schedule congestion and everything else that's coming up, not only for the Galaxy, but whenever you get to this game, what does this game in the Open Cup look like for both teams? So the LA Galaxy on May 17th will be in Columbus. Then they travel to DC. They are staying out there for that. I've already confirmed that. I talked to the Galaxy about their travel schedule.
A 3-day turnaround. Yeah, the 17th and the 20th.
Yeah, so you're talking about rotations and everything else, right? Greg Vanney told you 3 days is enough. That's not 3 days.
Yeah.
That's 3 days. There's only 2 days in between those games, right? And so the whole deal. So Columbus versus LA in Columbus, and then DC versus LA in DC. LAFC will be LAFC at home versus SKC, LAFC at home versus San Jose for those 2 games. Advantage LAFC in terms of being able to play both of those games at home. Tougher, though, for them. So that San Jose game will be tough for them because they just lost to them. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And so there's going to be revenge and there's going to be all sorts of stuff. Then, so that's the 5:20 games is LAFC versus San Jose, the LA Galaxy in DC. Just 3 days later, the LA Galaxy and LAFC will face off at BMO Stadium. However, also on the minds for LAFC is a game on 5/31, Leon versus LAFC in the CCL final. That one's in Leon. And then it's LAFC versus Leon coming back in the other one. The June 3rd game between LAFC and Atlanta was postponed. So there is a lot of schedule congestion for LAFC in and around that. The LA Galaxy also have problems in that, which is you do the Open Cup game, LAFC versus LA on the 23rd. 4 days later, LA versus Charlotte at home. Okay, so...
But I think this is interesting because I think you can talk me into some gamesmanship and some squad rotation where if you say, okay, the away game at Columbus, you put in
A-team.
Decent, A-team. This is your lineup. You try to steal some points on the road, and only 3 days later, second game of an away road trip, you say this is the Gino VV All Stars. Like let's put in the Galaxy 2 players. Let's give our guys some minutes, heavily rotated, and then you're putting the A guys back in for that Open Cup game. So I can see you look at it on paper and you say, oh, the Galaxy back-to-back road games, then coming back home. LAFC's been home. That's going to be a tough game for them to win. But I think they can maneuver it in a way where they may be able to put themselves in a position because LAFC has to consider the other. Where do they want to put their value? Do they want to say, we've ridden with these kids, at Monterey Bay, and we want to give them a second run out at home? Maybe that's a decision that they make, and you get another baby team like you did Seattle. So who knows what's going to happen? But I think if you're looking at the landscape and how the Galaxy have been doing, you maybe do want to put your eggs in this Open Cup basket and preserve your players and get them ready for this game.
Do what gets you to the next round, right? And so I don't have a problem with that. I also think the Galaxy can be competitive against a team like DC, even if they rotate a little bit. I don't love the depth of the LA Galaxy, but I'm also going to say it's not there. They have some guys.
And sometimes that's those players who are clawing and waiting for those minutes and waiting for those moments. And you don't expect to get the points because you're going to heavily rotate. But those guys come out with their pants on fire and maybe they make something happen and get some shocking points on the road. That's not unheard of either. we've seen teams do that in the past.
Remember Bruce Arena used to send like the babies out to play RSL like midweek, and they would the babies would come back and win that game. Like Jose Villarreal would be out there balling, Jack McBean out there balling, doing all that sort of stuff, and they would end up winning the game. So that's something that I think you're trying to sort of look at for this game. So that's what it is. Those are your times, 7:30 p.m. That's when you'll see that game kick off on that May 23rd game. So that's a Wednesday, I believe. If you go on the LA Galaxy,
Tuesday.
Is it a Tuesday? Is it Tuesday?
23rd
okay, so it's Tuesday.
Is a Tuesday.
Okay,
yes.
good. The only reason I was saying that is that if you went on the Galaxy's schedule, it actually said the 22nd for a while, and I was like, why are they playing before the window? That sounds like that's weird. Like the window's the 23rd and the 24th. Also, it was probably the Galaxy who couldn't play on the 24th because of the game on the 27th. That's my guess. So they wanted to have it close after the DC. But understand, it's a 7:30 p.m. game in DC that they'll be playing on that midweek, right? No, that's the weekend. On the weekend, right? They will then get done with that game, fly all the way back across the country, basically land probably at 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, right? And then they'll come in and they'll regen on Monday, and then they have a game on Tuesday. Understand that they are losing a whole day basically with that travel coming back, even though they're going to land at 1 or 2 in the morning. They'll come in for a little bit, do some regen, do some little things. Tuesday they'll do, basically Monday they'll do walkthrough type thing, and then Tuesday they're playing another game. So that's a tough turnaround. Even if you are going to A-team it, that's a tough turnaround because the A-team is going to be on that plane too.
Yes, correct.
So anyway, so that's where we're sort of sitting there with that. I wanted to talk about the two youngins, the U20s. Mauricio Cuevas and Marcus Fercranis both named to the U20 men's youth national team for the U20 World Cup in Argentina. Guys, this was fully expected. Everybody knew that these two were likely going to go. They haven't played a part here in the LA Galaxy, so really when you look at it, and apparently according to Greg, Cuevas' team had already been like, hey, we're going to send him, and so he was already prepped and ready to go, and so Greg's like, it doesn't matter, he can just prep with us whenever he gets back from it. Yeah. It's like not that big a deal in order to do that. So you get that. But the guys who didn't get called,
I think that's the news. The news is who didn't get called, not who did get called.
January, or excuse me, I'm looking at dates over here. I'm like, what is going on?
I was going to say Julian Ade and Jalen Neal.
Yeah. So Ade and Jalen Neal both not getting the call up. Now, we already talked about this, so we'll say it again so that way everybody can sort of get angry about it and then turn the page because I honestly could care less. It's one of those things that I think they're actually doing the right thing here, but Jalen Neal probably would have gone had they been released, but they're not mandated to be released, and so he'll stay, and he's a starter with the LA Galaxy. Ade is the same. Ade's camp apparently very much in the mindset that he should play with the LA Galaxy. That's more important right now than the U20 World Cup. Yes, there's a lot of prestige that comes with U20 World Cups. There's a lot of things that can happen. If you're looking for level of play, however, I'm going to say something that I think some people will like shock because you hear World Cup and you're like, well, that's got to be the highest. It's not the highest level. MLS is probably the highest level of play for those two guys.
Compared to the U20.
Yeah, compared to the U20 competition.
Correct.
Absolutely, that type of thing. But the thing they're missing there is the atmosphere of those tournaments and the things like that. So
yeah, the part they're missing out at, and you see it with these, when they crown a golden generation. The reason why they call these countries who have their golden generations, you had it with Mexico, had it with Belgium, you had it, Portugal had a golden generation at some point. It's because they usually win a youth World Cup, and then that generation kind of comes up expecting to win things. So what you miss out, possibility with Argentina or with the U.S. team is these players being grouped together, winning a youth championship, and then those players going on and progressing to the next level. That's the part that's a bummer that they miss out on, is the experience, the kind of culture, the pieces that you get, the camaraderie with your national team players and representing your country. That's the part that they miss. The other side of the coin, and I'll give this as a credit to Ade and to Neal. Neal did this to himself. He could have been a bench player. He could have been, figuring it out and get on a squad. But he had minutes that were available. He took them. He grabbed them by the throat, and he made himself a starter on the LA Galaxy. And he's now, indispensable. You can't get rid of him on this lineup, and so that's a good thing.
Yep.
That's the type of player that you want to build up to a level to where no, we can't. We have an option to say no, then we're going to say no. And I think Ade, less time with the team, but he's shown, okay, this is a guy who is much better suited on our roster. We don't want to let this guy go. We need this guy, on our team doing his thing. And I think it's, like you mentioned, seems like their camps are on board with this being a better situation for them. It is a bummer that they miss on the camaraderie part, but in terms of level of play, I think you're spot on. I don't think they're missing a drop off in a prestige and a competition and something that they're going to miss out on. I think getting the competition that they're going to get in these run of games, they'll be just as battle tested and better off for it, or whatever progression you want to call, by staying with the team.
Executive producer Herb, $3 super chat, June 3rd. We're working on it, Herb. We'll see what we can do. And a $10 super chat from Gary. Gary, very much appreciate you. Always in the chat room, always hanging around. Thanks for the show, my dudes. Thank you, Gary. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Gary. Yeah, Gary's always around too. Yeah, we got all the greatest hits are back tonight. It's nice to be back.
Everybody's together. It's kumbaya. There's a win. Even if it was a win against Baby Sounders, that's okay. That's okay. Enjoy it a little bit. Too many times people are not enjoying things. And I got a text message.
It's supposed to be fun, right? Soccer's supposed to be fun.
That's what I hear. It's also supposed to rip your heart out and everything else. Okay, let's go to a weird one, because we woke up, I think, on a Wednesday with Chris Mavinga apparently throwing Greg Vanney under the bus, but then not throwing Vanney under the bus. And I just want to say there was somebody on Twitter who basically said, at this point, a manager with zero plans and no schemes would be better than watching whatever Bob Bradley has them playing. Just end this nonsense. He's not turning it around now or ever. And Chris Mavinga sort of responded to that with the little guy who's
laughing face.
Is that a laughing face? But what's with the to me, the tear should be underneath the eye, because it's laughing, crying. You're kind of laughing, crying, but instead it looks like he's sweating. I can't get over visuals sometimes, and that's how it looks. Anyway, somebody wrote back to him underneath that and said, how are the Galaxy doing, my friend? And he goes, same boat, my friend. So in terms of him saying same boat, that means, and there was an argument about this in the press conference.
I'm ready to defend my man, Chris Mavinga here.
He's saying same boat, my friend. He's basically in this context and in this message thread, he's saying that at this point, a manager with zero plans and no schemes would be better than watching whatever Greg Vanney has them playing. Just end this nonsense. He's not turning it around now or ever. Just replace Bob Bradley with Greg Vanney. That's basically what Chris Mavinga possibly said. Now, Chris Mavinga said, whenever somebody said, hey, you just threw Vanney under the bus, he says, never, I'm behind him. In terms of the results, you guys ain't happy, which I understand. So it's the same. Don't interpret my words. It's like, well, Chris, that's what we're going to do.
Words.
That's what we're going to do, Chris.
That's how Twitter works. That's a thread situation,
yep. And basically, he was defending again. He says, never, Greg is the best coach for our team. Just the result is not there yet, but I'm convinced that we will win. You guys will be happy once again. This was all in my thread, which I thought was fun. Chris goes on. He goes, at the end of the day, it's us players who are on the field, so it's all on us to put everything out there. Also, we had a conversation between players now. It's so easy to say it's a situation around the club. We don't take that as an excuse. So the players sound like they had a player meeting, which is always nice, and that's usually what happens whenever your team sucks. And so they went and had a players meeting that decided it doesn't matter, and we can't use excuses in the whole deal. So finally to say, he goes, tweet in English. It's not easy when it's not your primary language. I've seen people overreact because of some words used. Next time I'll use Google Translate, winky face.
I don't think this wasn't a translation issue. He's covering up too much. He's going up too far. So where I'll defend him here. Are we getting into the defenses?
Yeah, please go for it.
So I'll defend him here, and I don't know if this is a insanity plea or incompetence plea. If he knew that this was attached to Greg Vanney being tossed under the bus, he wouldn't have said this in public, knowing it's a public forum.
And he's Chris's guy too, right? We all know that. He's one of Chris's guys.
He looked at it, how's the Galaxy doing? It's like, they're not doing great either. We're in the same boat. I think that's how he meant it. Obviously, with the thread, it's going to be, people are going to take umbrage. I think people reacted to it, and then he had to walk it back and do all the different conversations. No, actually, I mean it differently. And he actually walked it back, in my opinion, as you're going through it. Walked it back too far. Maybe it's a translate issue. It's like, okay, it's not a translate issue. Just say it's not what I meant. It is what it is. I don't think he was going after Vanney. I think it's a bad look, and the real simple thing to do if you're a professional soccer player is just be quiet. Don't tweet things. Don't
tweet ever.
Just tweet in those isms like they do after the game. You have 110%. We'll fight for you. We'll fight for the crest. Wish we had a bit. They sometimes have that copy paste response. You almost wish you could see some personality in there. Yeah. That's you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I don't think there was any malice behind it. People made a big deal, and rightfully so, because maybe what if he did? Let's make sure you clarify, and he clarified it, and it wasn't. So to me, hands washed, no big deal, a faux pas, an error. But I don't think there was any ill will or issues with it.
All right. It was somebody on. It was one of the. It was like Charles Barkley or it was Shaq or somebody, and they were talking about Twitter, and it was like, all Twitter ever does is get people fired, and I'm like, that's not wrong. That's not wrong.
Yeah. No. Twitter is just a easy way to get fired. Yeah,
that's right. So anyway, so that was that little one. And by the way, that came on the same day that reports were out that basically there was a meeting underway that was going to determine the futures of Greg Vanney and Chris Klein. I certainly don't have any confirmation any meetings actually happened. I would be very surprised if they didn't. Like, it's sort of about that time that you're sort of like, okay, you lose to Colorado and you do the whole thing. I would imagine there's meetings,
You guys mentioned that you had this wrap-up talk on Monday as well. But if there are other coaches around the league who are being fired, then you look at the Galaxy, who are right there at the bottom of the league, them being on the hot seat, having those conversations with Greg Vanney and with Chris Klein, it's totally fair. It doesn't seem like it's that crazy of an idea to let them go, but they've just painted themselves in so much of a corner with the whole situation that it seems like if there is going to be a domino to fall, it seems like Chris Klein does need to be that next domino, because anything else, people would cry foul. Vanney is almost like a made man in this situation. He could do anything, because if they come for Vanney's head before Klein's, there's already a riot enough. It's the chants are going to get even louder and even worse. Yeah,
very, very well could be. Hey, you want to go somewhere completely sideways? And I caught a tweet that you probably nobody was really meant to read. Like, it was one of those that's like, it's marketing.
Sideways is my game.
This is marketing. This was marketing, right? And it was a marketing firm that was sort of like, look how awesome we are. We're helping the LA Galaxy out. This is so cool. So let's get to it. This is Stellar Algo. And they tweeted out, and I catch it because, of course, I search all these LA Galaxy terms and all that fun stuff. It says, when the LA Galaxy were looking to identify and nurture new fans, they ran a stellar play, a customized step-by-step strategy supported by their Stellar Algo account manager. The results, 520% revenue boost. There's an asterisk there. I still haven't read that asterisk. I have no idea what it is. And 436% increase in ticket sales, asterisk. Here's how they did it. Okay. This is all marketing stuff, and so I want you to understand.
Is this like a program? Is this?
It seems like it's a person
software?
That's working a software and working like hey, we do like these individual customized marketing things, and this is what we offer you, and this is what we're going to do for you, and this is what they did. So the strategy for this Stellar Algo, they said, that was working with Stellar Algo, the LA Galaxy learned that new fans, specifically first known attendees, tend to purchase tickets to additional games more often than other fan segments. That's interesting little data to pull in anyway. So their idea was to identify the LA Galaxy, use the platform to identify their new fans, the first known attendees, and then a strategic email campaign was developed to deliver personalized emails to first known attendees within 24 to 72 hours of fans attending their first game. Then Stellar Algo platform tracked and measured each campaign, including engagement metrics and ticket purchases. Historical ticketing data in the Stellar Algo platform was also used to compare the performance of first known attendees to key fan segments from previous seasons. Throughout the season, the Galaxy have conducted experiments to test email templates and messaging with a focus of improving fan engagement and ticket sales conversions. Okay. The campaign
that explains the emails.
There's been a lot of emails if you've been paying attention. The campaign tracking and measurement provided by the Stellar Algo platform helped produce insights to enhance future engagements. Increase ticket sales by identifying and nurturing first known attendees. So that's what they did. Drive the single game ticket revenue, upgrade single game ticket buyers into multi-game packages, improve fan data capture to better understand trends. That's a good one, because basically in this it says anytime that they use Wi-Fi, or anytime it's a measurable data point, you're able to track and understand what purchases people made. Yeah, and you can collect all this, and you can actually tie it to like tickets eventually, right? And so you can do all these things and say, well, this first known attendee did this, and that. So what they did was they went out and targeted these people. They went and drove it, and they're saying that they got a 436% increase in all of those things that are going on. So 9,800 new fans, first known attended, were identified, a 520% revenue increase from first known attendees, a 436% increase in ticket sales. Those are giant numbers, by the way. I mean, whenever you're talking about it, and hopefully you're not just talking about 10 people who ended up having multi-game plans, right? You know, that type of thing. So 9.2% first known attendees who have already purchased tickets to additional games during the 2022 season. I mean, not a lot, but whenever you're out there fishing, and I don't know if anybody has ever sent out emails and actually measures anything, like if you get like 7 or 8% of the people to read your email, you are in a happy place.
If you get them to respond, that's a whole nother level. You know, I've watched Shark Tank. It's all about customer retention. What's your rate and all that stuff. That's this feels like a deck that someone would present on Shark Tank is what it feels like. My initial thoughts on seeing this, because I'm kind of running into this cold, is we were told that leadership is really great at going out and making ticket sales happen.
They do it,
but
they get it done.
If you're just pushing the button and making the algorithm go, is that your skill in making it happen, or maybe is it you get credit for finding the right company and the right algorithm to make it happen? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It's a question I have. That is this do we look at this as a strength? You know, the Galaxy are looking in the right direction to bring new fans in through the door, or are they outsourcing their material when are the people in the front office competent and have a plan in making this happen, or do they need to outsource to these things, or is this the norm? Is this the norm around the league that have a lot of these systems in place? I don't know. I just have more questions,
right?
And it is what it is.
It was funny because Commercial Underground says if only the LA Galaxy had an analytics department for soccer as much as they have for ticket sales. It seems. Nice joke.
That's a great retort. It's correct.
That is so awesome. Very good job, and I appreciate you. All right, let's talk about this San Jose game. Because that's sort of at the point we're at. Are you good? I mean, I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time. I just thought it would be interesting to see that the LA Galaxy, every time you sign on Wi-Fi, are tracking your purchases and doing all that stuff in order to
ask app not to track.
Yeah, whatever. You know, everybody knows everything. You know, ChatGPT just ranked the LA Galaxy as the biggest MLS club, so you got that going for us. A computer AI program that can't see past, I think, 2021.
Yeah, I was going to say, they don't have all the data points.
Yeah, that's for sure. So anyway, just the whole deal. So let's talk about the San Jose game. I didn't even get to ask you because we were, of course, I was scrambling around trying to get my son to actually go to sleep, which I'm not going to say anything about because so far so good. But do you have a game preview ready?
You know what? I'm struggling with.
Okay.
I'm going to take a rain check on that.
We'll do another one.
Yeah.
$5 super chat from Raphael. Firecline ticket sales will skyrocket. That'll be $100K for the consultant fee. LA Galaxy. There you go. See, you know, there's a Raphael. Patrick underneath. Raphael gets it. Yeah, that's how it works. All right, good job. All right, so coming up. This weekend, it's a Sunday game. This is the LA Galaxy hosting the San Jose Earthquakes on the first Cali-Clasico of 2023. Dignity Health Sports Park, May 6, 2023. That's not right. That's the wrong date. So
May 6th,
May 6th, May 14th.
15th.
No,
14th.
12th, 13th, 14th, May 14th, 6:30 p.m., 6:55 p.m. And I worked on that graphic so hard. This game can be found on FS1 for free. Or Apple TV for free.
Live TV. We're back, baby.
That's exactly what it could be. So you can watch this game. You can find this game 6:30 p.m., 6:55 p.m. The kickoff, so a 25-minute lead-in, which usually happens whenever Fox has the national game on the outside there. So San Jose, a little bit of a darling right now in Major League Soccer, a little rebound for them. They're actually looking pretty good. If we go in the Western Conference, San Jose is currently in 4th place, tied with LAFC. For 3rd place. Now, I say tied with LAFC because they just beat LAFC 2-1. That was up in San Jose, or I should say that was up in Santa. See, it wasn't even Santa Clara.
Levi Stadium. It was at Levi Stadium.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we're going to have this conversation. Yes. Keep kicking this team while we're down. There used to be a team that came into town, and they'd go to Stanford Stadium and get the bigger stadium. But now there's another team that they go and they say, hey, let's get these guys in a bigger stadium as well. So I don't know if this is a mark on San Jose, or if this is something where we need to be worried about ourselves as well. But it is interesting.
Does it say something also that they play them in like an NFL stadium, and then they play the Galaxy in a college stadium? Like, is there something that you could can you take anything from that? Is there a slight? Is San Jose trying to thumb their noses at the LA Galaxy once again. First of all, they never play anybody in their own little Crackerbox Jacks.
Correct. That's the problem.
Cracker Jack stand, right?
Whenever you want to sell more tickets, you can't use your own stadium. That's the problem.
Which is my favorite because you get to watch planes land and you get to watch soccer at the same time. I'm pretty sure there's a rail line over there. If there's trains and I can see trains, planes, and soccer at the same time, I may never leave.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that trip up there, but I don't like going to the other stadiums. But this is a San Jose team that has been playing well. They are not a bad San Jose team right now. They're coming off a 2-1 win over LAFC at Levi's. Now, they were knocked out of the Open Cup April 25th to Monterey Bay, and Monterey Bay took LAFC to penalty kicks. 5-4 for LAFC over Monterey Bay in that one. Their last loss was away to Real Salt Lake. Again, I'm getting mixed signals. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, they beat LAFC, so now, they're on fire and everything. And then you go back and they're like, okay, they lost to RSL, at RSL, 3-1. Okay, that's fine. But they drew Austin, which Austin has generally been. But it was in Austin, 2-2.
Yeah.
They're fourth in the Western Conference. I think they have 5 or 6 wins so far this season. Their last 5 games are 2-1-2. Yeah, okay, but where is this? Like all of a sudden they're the darlings because they beat LAFC.
I think it could be the way they're playing. When you watch the MLS recap show and kind of, it is an attractive brand that they're playing, and I think because they have a Golden Boot contender in Christian Espinoza that makes them something to talk about, because whenever you flash, leading scorers for the league, his name pops up there. So it's like, oh, what's happening in San Jose? But I had the same thoughts as you. I'm looking at draw at San Jose. San Jose's been awful. Lost to Monterey Bay. A loss to RSL. They beat Kansas City. Well, you see where Kansas City's at.
Right.
A draw to the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls haven't been great. And then a win at Houston. That's not necessarily a great thing. So I'm with you that, like, where's this great team, this darling team that everyone's having? But then you look at the roster and you think Jeremy Ebobisse, Cade Cal, Christian Espinoza, that front three. Normally I'll say, who on this roster scares me? That front three scares me in that order. Christian Espinoza, Ebobisse, and then Cade Cal. The Galaxy, if that midfield, has any struggles or they have any giveaways and they're not able to, keep those, passes tight, these guys are going to make you pay in transition. So that this does make me a little bit nervous with their front three that they bring. These are good players that they're going to be going up against.
Jackson Yueill is in that as well, I would throw there, right? And so Marcinkowski in gold. I mean, they have some, like you said, their front three is not bad. You just sit there and look at the midfield and you say, okay, well, and in most cases, you look at the LA Galaxy midfield and say, well, the LA Galaxy midfield should be able to outplay San Jose's midfield. Worried about the wings, though. You're going to have Aude and you're going to have Caligari going up against these big-time scorers on the outside. You have Neal and you have, Caceres in the center trying to control, some of these guys, Espinoza and Ebobisse. So you do all these things, and it's like there are some dangers in this game, and it feels like, and if you look at the season stats, sort of where San Jose is, that they're a 50-50 team, right? So they don't have all the possession. They sort of go back and forth. So in my mind, with the speed that they have, you're looking at more of a transition team. Right.
And these are the teams that the Galaxy struggle and get worked against. So right. I'm nervous about this game.
As you should be. And so, in my mind, this is one of those tricky games that you sit there and you say, the Galaxy, they have a lot of games coming up. This is one of the ones they get to play at home, and then they go on the road, and they go to Columbus, and they go to D.C., and they come back, and they have to play an Open Cup. So this is like the last sort of breath that the LA Galaxy get to take at home. This is a really good chance at 3 points, even though it's going to be a tough game. I think the fact it's a tough game against an opponent that is coming in a Cali-Clasico and a rivalry, sometimes this team, you need to get them emotionally fired up. This is the type of game that gets them emotionally fired up. So
I agree with that.
I think they have plenty of time to recover. I think the Sunday game is good. So all of those things are sort of sitting in there. So I am optimistic, as you can be for a team that has one win in the league all season. Could they get routed? Absolutely. I mean, you can see this team and how they get routed by transition games, right? Look at the Colorado game. Perfect example. Houston, same thing. Look at the transition teams really beat them up. So I think San Jose would be happy to let the Galaxy have the ball, and they're going to look to turn them over. When they turn them over, you're going to have guys who are sprinting at Mach speed coming up through the middle, and if the Galaxy don't get their transition defense right, then they're going to get pulled apart like they have. So, there's a part of me that really wants to say the Galaxy are back on track. I think if the Galaxy are back on track, then they draw or win this game. If they really found something that sort of worked for them, and I expect a single striker formation up top. I don't think Greg Vanney's going to change that. I wouldn't be surprised if you see VV start again, just because I don't think there's anybody else. Maybe you could get Johnny Perez in there, who had played with Galaxy 2, I think previously, and so maybe could perhaps come back up and play in that position.
Or you can run it back with Memo Rodriguez.
He's
coming in hot, feeling good about himself. That could be the other opportunity on that wing.
Yeah.
Although he hasn't been successful as a winger, so it comes down to what do you want to do.
Yeah.
As a result there.
The other thing, and I don't know when they've been called for or released yet, is that Cowell is a U20 guy, as the chat room rightfully points out, and so he could be gone with U20s already. So I think he may have been gone. So that's going to be a plus for the LA Galaxy. Again, San Jose releases their guys, Galaxy keep their guys. Is there an advantage in that, an inherent advantage in keeping out and Neil in this particular one? So yeah, this is interesting. I mean, yeah, we can pretend that every game is a must win. It's not. I'll tell you right now, well, you're lying to yourself. But this is a big one.
I want to talk about this because we didn't talk about the standings necessarily. No. But as bleak as it's been for the LA Galaxy, and you think they're sitting on 6 points, and you look at Seattle, who's up there with 20 points. Man, you can't win the season at the beginning of the year, but you could definitely lose it. But when you look at this and you think, man, they've only won one game, how bad they've been looking and how bad they've been playing. But when you look at those 8 or 9 spots and that 8, 9, 10, and you think that's 12 points, that's 2 wins, a 2-game slide from some of these teams, and then the Galaxy put 2 games together, and all of a sudden you're back in business, you're in the playoff picture. So I as much as I feel it with how bad this team has been playing, like throw it away. It's done. Let's go to 2024. Why are we wasting our energy on this? It's not going to end well. We're just going to get our hearts broken. But then you look at the standings and you think, well, 2 games. They could put 2 games together. They can go on a 2-game streak, and then all it takes is Minnesota or Portland or Colorado. They drop 2 games, and then all of a sudden you're cooking. So as bleak as it is for the LA Galaxy, putting a couple wins together is all it takes to get them back in the mix.
And I know Kevin is very much, hey, you need to get a certain number of points per game in order to get back to this point in order to get 9th or 8th and all that stuff. I would say this, the Western Conference is actually pretty wide open in terms of who's going. I don't see anybody running away with it. I mean, you have Seattle up there at 20, you have St. Louis at 19. Now, St. Louis has hit the wall as we expected them to do. What do you know? People aren't passing it to them for goals anymore. So St. Louis has hit the wall. LAFC has stumbled a little bit as they contend with Champions League and everything. Yeah, I mean, but they stumbled, right? But that's a team you expect to run away with it, right? And they lost the game. They're stumbling, right? Dallas with 15 points, Houston with 14 points. There's just a lot of middling going on more than anything. So I think there's going to be a lot of cannibalization inside of the Western Conference, like we said last year as well, that there's so many little things. Now, that could end up meaning that the difference between making the playoffs, missing the playoffs, can be a single point, and you could move as many as 3 or 4 or 5 spots because there could be a lot of tiebreakers and other things.
Yeah.
But don't focus on the points per game. The Galaxy have to win games first for you to focus on points per game. I'm not sure that they're quite there yet. Do you have a prediction for this game? Do you
want 538?
Yeah, give me 538. Yeah.
538 has LA Galaxy with a 55% chance, San Jose with a 22% chance, and then a 23% chance for a draw. So Galaxy kind of heavily favored. The 538 likes the LA Galaxy, but I will say this season, 538 has been an absolute bloodbath. It is a disaster. They went 30% last week. They went 4 out of 13 correct. So the fact that the Galaxy are favored in 538, the way it's been going this season, not great. So a little bit nervous about it. If you look at the Bovada, the odds, Galaxy minus 115, San Jose plus 290. So
I put money Galaxy, on San Jose on that.
San Jose, if you want to make some money. I don't know. I could see this going, but if you want guaranteed to be wrong predictions,
yes,
I hate to be negative, but I think this is going to be a 2-1 Galaxy loss.
I was going to be negative.
Prove me wrong. The Galaxy team, you beat a preschool team in Seattle. Prove me wrong, but from what they've shown throughout this year, they have not shown me that they can handle a team that's going to be strong in transition with a proven goal scorer who knows to put it in the back of the net. I haven't seen them stop those guys this season, so I'm not expecting them to stop them in this game. So I'm expecting a loss in this game.
I was going to be negative, and you took my negativity.
You said you can smell a tie, a possible tie if they play well, they get it together. get back on track. Gino Vivi plays.
I was going to say something that is like blatantly obvious, like most of the podcast is. This time we're fairly straightforward on this. We're not trying to hide our motives on any of this stuff. But I was going to say, if the Galaxy tie or win this game, that'll be good.
They score more goals than San Jose. I think they have a chance of winning this thing.
They're going to be good. Yeah. By the way, Alex asks, and he goes, 538 have had the Galaxy favored in most of the games this year, and they have because the Galaxy on paper are a good
goes
team.
To that talent issue. Yeah.
The stats, by the way, it comes down to stats, and sometimes you are who you are, and sometimes you're underperforming or you're overperforming, right? And you can sort of see those. And in St. Louis's case, where we look at it, we're like, man, they just keep winning, but they were overperforming all their stats, and you're like, yeah, it's going to come back. Regression to the mean. The Galaxy have been underperforming their stats. Regression to the mean, right? And so the whole deal. I mean, you saw Colorado come out and score 3 goals on an XG that was pretty. Okay, but they're the ones who have been underperforming their XG more than anybody. So
I could picture something like, if you remember those, I think it was Dallas last season where in the first half, like you blink twice and all of a sudden you're down 3-0. Right. I could see that happening in this game.
Yeah. The XG in the Seattle game actually was Seattle had some higher. I think they had a higher XG than the Galaxy did. I forgot to grab that chart, but I was looking at that. So anyway, to my prediction.
Do it, Josh. Positive vibes.
2-2. 2-2.
Or you can go totally negative, and then we're guaranteed to be wrong.
2-2.
That the reverse jinx.
Here's the 2-2. bad. Here's the bad part. Do you want to know the bad part about my 2-2? Galaxy are winning 2-1 with like 6 minutes left.
Okay.
And they gave up that goal.
That's very Cali-Clasico.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And San Jose probably rings the bar after that, after they score the 2-2 goal, like in stoppage time, and it bounces off the bar, and everybody goes, oh my God, the Galaxy almost lost that game. And everybody pulls out there, oh my God, the Cali-Clasico.
You got to get 3 points at home.
It never disappoints, man. It never disappoints.
Dr. Nick in the house. Yeah, welcome.
Oh my God, I like that people like my whiny fan voice. I didn't pull that one out for this particular one. I don't think there's anything to worry about. So, all right, I think that does it.
We're good. We made it. Okay. Jake didn't make an appearance, so success. Good luck to you. Getting back to it.
We did it, Joe.
We did it, Joe. We made it. We're alive. We're healthy. What a time to be alive.
Tell people where they can find you. We'll get on out of here.
All right. As always, you can find me at HammerEV9 on everything. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That's HammerEV and the number 9.
You can find me at Jay Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerthegalaxy.com once I get it fixed. And then all our YouTube channels. We have all of the press conferences from the Colorado game and from the Seattle game are up there on our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It's right there. All your podcasts. We appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with us. We will, of course, be back on Monday. We'll recap this game, tell you all the fun stuff that's going on, and we'll get you ready for the rest of the very, very busy season. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo. And on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.